When I was a teenager, I thought working until 67 was the only option. I don't think anybody ever explicitly said that that was my only choice, but it seems like everybody else was just planning on it. I never even questioned it. Looking back, I think this is one of the biggest failures of my education in school. School is supposed to prepare you to be a productive member of the workforce, but it doesn't teach you the real power of money. That's why, when I discovered the financial freedom community, it felt like a light bulb moment for me. I realized that instead of working in a cubicle for my entire life, I could retire early at 30 years old. This YouTube channel is to chronicle my journey and to share any lessons I learn along the way. So with this video, I wanted to share some of the most important lessons that I've learned about money that I never learned in school. Let's get into it. Lesson number 1. What money can buy for you. Money can buy a lot of things. That includes things you need to survive, like housing and food, and also things that you just want, like sports cars, luxury homes, and anything else to make your exes feel like you're more successful without them. But something I wish I learned at an earlier age is that money can buy something even more important than that. Money can buy freedom. Instead of earning more money to live an extravagant lifestyle and flex on Instagram, you could also keep your expenses at a reasonable level and literally never have to work again. And if you're willing to move abroad, you could still live like royalty, but spend less than half of what the average American does. When I finally learned this lesson, it felt so obvious. But it's not something that's taught in school. Even when I studied business finance in college, I was surrounded by very smart people that worked with money every day, but they'd still never considered early retirement. So a lot of people spend a lot of their time thinking about earning more money. But I think more people should spend a little more of their time thinking about what they want to do with it. Do you want to be trapped in a job that you don't love to make car payments on a fast car to try to impress people on the internet that you barely know? Or do you want to reach financial freedom? Lesson number 2. Buying money. Since I was a kid, I thought money was for spending. And this is still how a lot of people think. And this perspective makes a lot of sense, especially as a kid. You do things that you don't like to do to earn money so that you can spend that money on things that you do like. But this simple perspective on money is what keeps so many people broke. If all you do with your money is spend it, then your wealth will never grow. But not only do you need to not spend your money, you can also use your money to increase your wealth even more. Effectively, you can buy more money. You can do this by investing. When you invest, you buy an asset that makes money so that you have more money later. It's by investing that you can reach financial freedom permanently. Instead of spending down your savings, you can use your savings to make even more money. Once you have enough in savings, you can live off of your investment returns alone, without ever spending down the money that you'd saved. Something else the school didn't teach you, which I really wish it did, is that you should smash the like button on this video to help the algorithm. And if you want more videos like this one, maybe hit subscribe as well. Lesson 3. The 26x multiplier. When most people think about personal finance, they think about earning more money. I remember in high school, we had guidance counselors come in and show us projected earnings for different amounts of education. And the message was clear. Get as much education as possible and get the highest paying job that you can. That is what success is. This is also what most financial influencers spend most of their time talking about because it has the widest possible audience. I mean, who doesn't want to earn more money? But the truth is, a high-paying job really isn't that important. When you actually look at the numbers, you'll realize that how much you spend is actually way more important than how much you earn. And there's 2 reasons for this. For one, where I live, for every dollar I make, I pay about 25 cents in taxes. That means that a dollar earned is only worth about 70 to 75 cents. But when I save an extra dollar, I get to keep every single penny of that dollar. But even more important is what I call the 26x multiplier. Remember, you've reached financial freedom once your investments can cover your annual expenses. And historically, you would need about 25 times your annual expenses to safely retire. That means when you reduce your expenses by $1,000, you don't just have an extra $1,000 to invest. You also need about $25,000 less dollars to retire. This realization completely changed my outlook on money, and I wish I'd learned this lesson in school years before I learned it on my own. Reducing your expenses is far more powerful than earning more money, and there is no way I'd be on track to retire by 30 years old without the power of the 26x multiplier. Lesson number 4: Love and life. The next lesson that I want to talk about is maybe the most controversial one, and I know that not everybody will agree with me here, but I think it's important to talk about anyway. Ever since I was a kid, I was told to do what I love. The saying goes that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But while I think this advice comes from a good place, it's kind of BS. Now, hear me out. Everybody wants to find a job that they love, and that's totally reasonable. And at the very least, you will want to find a job that you don't hate. But finding a job that you love is not necessarily the advice that I'd give to everybody. Let me explain why. Most jobs that people love really don't pay that well. I mean, if you love being a software engineer and working 80 hours a week, then life might be pretty easy for you, and Elon Musk can't wait to hire you. But when most people talk about a job that they love, it's often things like being a teacher or working for a nonprofit. Those jobs just don't pay that well. So instead of working in one of these super low paying jobs, what if you became financially free first? If you could have lived on a low income, that also means that you could save a lot of money if you worked a high paying job. Doing that, it wouldn't take that long to reach financial freedom, or at least put yourself in a healthy financial situation. And once you have that money and freedom, you have decades of your life to live doing whatever you want. So, which would you rather choose? Would you rather do what you love in your 20s and then spend decades working a job just to pay the bills? Or would you rather work hard in your 20s and spend the remaining decades of your life doing whatever you loved? Now, again, this advice won't apply to everybody. I understand that there's a real urge to take risks and explore when you're young, and saving money might not be on the top of your mind. And that's okay. Everybody is different. But personally, I'd rather reach financial freedom first and do what I love later. Lesson number 5: The financial snowball. The reason that so many of these lessons really should be taught in school is because of the snowball effect that these decisions have on your wealth. For example, I just talked about working a high-paying job instead of a low-paying job earlier in your career. Let's see what kind of difference this could make. First, what would happen if you worked a low-paying job for the first 20 years of your career and then a high-paying job for the next 20 years of your career? While you work a low-paying job, I'll assume you save $1,000 a month, which is still a lot more than a lot of people save. And in years you work a high-paying job, I'll assume you save $4,000 a month. This is way more than a lot of people save, but it's actually less than I'm saving as a 23-year-old. And in all cases, I'll assume you earn a 7% return on your investment. After working a low-paying job for 20 years, you'd have about $492,000. Now, that's not shabby at all, and probably more than the average 40-year-old has saved. But it's probably not enough money to retire. If you then worked a high-paying job for the next 20 years of your career, then by the time you're around 60 years old, you'd have $3.9 million. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a tremendous amount of money. Consistent saving over a long period of time can make you extraordinarily wealthy. But what if you had worked a high-paying job first? If you had worked a high-paying job for the first 20 years of your career, you would have just shy of $2 million at around age 40. That's already way more money than I need to completely retire, and it's more money than most people will ever have in their lives. But if you then worked a low-paying job for another 20 years, presumably doing something that you love, then by the time you're around age 60, you'd have $8.1 million. That's just an absurd amount of money. And more importantly, it's twice as much money than if you had worked a low-paying job first and then a high-paying job. Again, you'd have the exact same career earnings, but you'd be $4 million richer. This lesson also demonstrates why I think it's so important that school teach these lessons. Good financial decisions early on can make a massive difference in your wealth. So the earlier you understand these lessons, the better. So if there's anyone that you think could benefit from some of these lessons, make sure to share this video with them. It really helps the channel and hopefully them. Lesson number 6, measuring success. So far, I've talked almost exclusively about increasing your wealth. I think this is important because wealth gives you freedom. That's something that I think schools should teach their students. But another lesson I wish I learned in school is that success looks different for everybody. When I was younger, I was obsessed with having more money. It seemed like wealth was the only measure of success, and how much money you had was the way that everybody kept score. I think that this is a very misguided culture. I mean, I've shown before that you could become a multimillionaire on a relatively low income. But is this what really matters to you? Wealth is just a means to an end, and you can do a lot of different things with it. Most people, at least in America, are trapped in consumerism and spend almost everything that they earn. But others can use that money to reach financial freedom and retire early. Some continue working simply to give to charity. So as you grow your wealth and better your personal finances, don't lose sight of what's actually important to you. Wealth might not be the goal, and for most people, it really shouldn't be. Figure out the type of life you want to live, and then figure out how to get there. This video was meant to cover some of the most important lessons that I wish I had learned in school, but it definitely didn't cover everything. So if you want more videos like this one, let me know in the comments or by hitting the like button. And while there are so many things that I wish I had learned in public school, I was lucky enough to study business finance in college. And I recently made a video where I talked about the most important lessons I learned from studying business finance, which I apply to my everyday life. I'll link that video right over here for you to check out next, and I'll see you next time.